It's Dick Baumbach with a special edition of Good News, and I'm joined by Jeff Heiser.
Jeff Heiser, Success and Intentional Lifestyle. Welcome to today's show.
Okay, Jeff, what we talked about is there have been so many negative things happening in the last couple of weeks that we just want to talk about, how do we overcome this bad news so we can keep giving good news. One thing I have noticed is there has been less good news being posted than there was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, there certainly is. There's a lot of bad going on in the world. But you know what? We talked about something right before this show, and I would love for you to go into what you did when we were doing some sound checks about the significance of this time in July.
Yeah, this day, 47 years ago, was a good news story. Two gentlemen landed on the moon. And you might remember their names, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin.
That was amazing. I remember sitting and watching that on television, and how everybody was just so glued to that. I get goosebumps now. I mean, it was an amazing story. It still is.
Well, and the fact that the other part of the good news is those two gentlemen, along with Mike Collins, got back here and came back to this earth.
Yeah, those were the good days. It's not like today where it seems like every single story that we hear is bad news over and over and over again. It wears on you.
Well, and I think that's, and we, even as we mentioned earlier before the show, that even with the conventions going on, there's some positive coming out. There's a lot of negative that keeps coming up.
It just seems like they don't want to talk about good news. Doesn't it seem like that on television? It's like, yeah, we know there's good news, but we're going to drive home the fact that they're burning these cars and they're protesting these, and they've shut down this interstate, and they've done this, and they've blown up this city, and they've killed this many people, and they've attacked this train. It almost gets you to where you are desensitized about it.
Right, and you want to turn out and you want to block out.
Right, and not just block out the bad stuff, but you're blocking out everything.
Yeah, and I think that it's so obvious, like we talked about, and the sadness of the police officers. But then, as you mentioned, the sadness for the families in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I heard a statistic, and I haven't had a chance to verify it, and I've heard two different ones. One was in the 2000s, and then last evening it was 3,500 people have been killed in Chicago so far this year, murdered. That's an astounding number.
Yeah, and again, it's, you're trying to overcome that with this good news, and as we have talked about, networks have been picking up and trying to have their lost story on their evening shows to be a bit of good news, because they realize people are getting sick and tired.
Yeah, speaking about sick and tired, I have to share this. One of the reasons why my daughter's family got rid of TV, they literally cut the cable, and they don't have any television at their home except for Netflix and what have you, is because they didn't want their kids, my grandsons, seeing this news all the time on the TV. I mean, everything you look at, whether you're watching a nighttime show or not, it gets interrupted with all this devastation, and it's just not good for our children.
Well, it's interesting, too, what you say, because that same thing has occurred with our two children. They don't watch it. They cut the cable. They go through the Netflix or whatever.
Right.
And it's that generation, maybe they can turn this around.
Right. Now, I promise I won't give away your age.
Thank you very much.
He's younger than me.
Sure.
But you've been around a while.
Yeah.
And, have you seen it like this before?
The only time that I really have seen it is during the Vietnam War and during the racial riots.
Yeah, those were bad times.
And for me, one of the things that was so significant is that during the Rochester racial riot, I was shot in the face covering the riot.
You were shot in the face.
I was shot in the face. Yep.
Well, that explains a lot. No, I'm only kidding.
Now you know. No, but even though I got through that, and I was reporting for ABC at the time, even though I got through that, I still say we have to have good news.
We absolutely have to have good news, because if we're not the ones giving it, who is? I mean, except for the 3 minutes at the end of the TV shows, that's it. I went through last week. I went through. I think it's the Lear Hour of News and the BBC and all these different news channels that we have available, and what they announced was all bad news. There wasn't anybody that was giving good news except for the 3 networks that you can get for free: ABC, NBC, and CBS. The last 2 or 3 minutes of the show, and that's it.
Yeah,
it's a shame. It's a crime.
And you look at the anchors, and they almost seem relieved when they do that last story.
Absolutely. I forget the guy's first name, Muir on ABC.
David Muir.
David Muir. He always seems like that. It's like he almost takes a deep breath and then lets it out, and it's like, and here's a good news story.
Same thing with Lester Holt on NBC.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Talking about Lester Holt, I remember, and this is bad news. I remember when the very first time we went into Iraq, he was reporting.
Right.
And he was on the television, and they were hitting his hotel with rockets and mortars. And he was like under the bed reporting, and it was like, my son was like, "Dad, do you see what's going on?" And it's like, "Yeah." He goes, "No, they're attacking the reporter." And it's like, "No, it's not the reporter they're attacking. He just happens to be there." But that's how it affects the kids.
Well, and that really, ended up being good news for Lester. Now, we have to remember that there was bad news for somebody else at NBC.
Yeah. But that was good news. That projected him way down the road in his career.
And the same thing happened to Wolf Blitzer at that same time?
Yeah, yep.
He was under attack, too.
He was there. I remember he wasn't like Lester. Lester, I think, was yelling into the mic, and Wolf Blitzer was like very, conservative and talking, It's like, there's no big deal. And Lester's like, "We're under attack.
Please do something.
Please do something.
Send me the private plane so I can go home."
Yeah.
And that would be good news if you got the private plane to go home.
That would be. So we have a few minutes left. I know that you have some good news stories.
Yeah, and it's really to end this segment this time. The first one is, and it just came out, 500 elephants in Maui, Africa, are being relocated as a group.
Okay, everybody line up. We're going to march.
Because they are in a very small campground area. And the Maui government said, no, they need to go back to their own land. I'm sure those elephants, if we got this chance to speak to them, would say, this is good news.
Yeah. Now, is there a possibility that they're also moving them there to better protect them, or is it just for the size?
No, it's protecting them because it's protecting them and also giving them more space.
Yeah. What's your next story? I know you've got several here.
Yeah. The next one is, and this just started in Maple Lake, Washington. A gentleman went out and bought blue masking tape and put a strip across the back of his car to support police officers.
That's awesome. That is just awesome.
Well, he thought that it would just be in Maple Lake,
Right.
Well, it's gone viral from Facebook now, and people are going out and buying. So if you want stock in duct tape,
blue tape,
You go for it, man.
You know, I have a friend that's up in Michigan that started this program, and I don't remember what it stands for, but he calls it COPS, and he makes blue bracelets, blue expandable plastic bracelets that you wear, and he sends them to all of the police departments that experience death in their police departments. It's amazing. It just is amazing.
And that supports them.
Right.
Because something I heard the other day, there are 300 million of us in this country. There are 869,000 police officers for 300 million people.
That's a staggering number. I mean, you know, what do you expect from some of these people?
I know.
I mean, my nephew is a police officer, and I worry about him every day because of the evil that is out in the world, that just for no reason. The kid is a good kid. There's no reason to shoot him.
Right. And that's why we're all, but we're going to go back to good news again.
Good news.
Okay. The last story for this time is, now, you need to go to Salem, Oregon, because there is a mystery philanthropist who has so far put $55,000 in $100 bills all across the city.
Dick, I'm not going to be here next week for the show.
I understand.
We could do it from the road. I'm headed to Oregon.
Okay. No, and nobody has any idea who this person is, whether it's male or female, but every day people are finding, they go into the grocery store, they find a $100 bill taped underneath a cereal box.
Oh, wow. I'm going to be starting to check my chairs and stuff.
Well, I'm thinking, you know, okay, maybe we should relocate TNR to Salem.
Yeah, that would be a good thing.
So, you know, I think those are all of our positive, good news things to sort of end this special segment. And next week we will be back with good news, the regular stories, and you'll get to hear Jeff and I laugh about some good news. We really, really, really want to thank you for listening to us and listening to this good news segment. Have a great, good week.